Have you ever chased success so intensely that one day you looked in the mirror and barely recognized the person staring back? Have you ever reached the top of a goal you once dreamed of, only to feel a quiet emptiness settling inside you as if something important had been slipping away without you noticing? Most people believe success is a clean, upward path. But Brendon Burchard discovered a darker, more complicated truth, one that almost no one talks about. The truth that didn't hit him at the beginning of his journey but at the height of his achievements, when fame, money, and recognition were pouring in. And that single moment changed everything. Today, you're going to step into that exact moment when Brendon realized the success he had built with relentless energy and ambition was silently damaging him. Not because success itself is bad, but because the way he was living it was burning him out, draining his relationships, and slowly disconnecting him from the person he wanted to be. People see Brendon as the unstoppable high-performance coach, the motivator with endless positivity, but what they don't see is the pressure behind the scenes, the guilt of always being on, and the private fear of losing everything he worked for. There were days when he felt trapped by his own achievements, nights he lay awake replaying every mistake, and moments when he realized he was inspiring millions while forgetting to care for himself. In this video, you will discover the lesser-known side of Brendon, the human side filled with burnout, doubt, and emotional exhaustion. You will learn the quiet habits he used to rebuild his life from the inside out, habits that protect you from losing yourself in the chase for more. If you've ever pushed so hard that your health or relationships suffered, if you've ever felt overwhelmed by your goals, or wondered why success sometimes feels heavier than failure, then you need to stay with this video until the end. Because Brendon's story isn't just about achievement, it's about survival, awakening, and learning to succeed without destroying yourself in the process. Welcome to Habits of Greatness. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe so you never miss the stories and lessons that help you grow, stay grounded, and rise with purpose. Before we talk about the moment everything changed, we need to understand who Brendon Burchard really is. Not the version you see on stages, not the version you see in interviews, but the person behind all of it. The man who built an empire from almost nothing and yet still found himself questioning the direction of his life. Brendon didn't come from privilege. He didn't grow up with connections, influence, or a guaranteed path to success. What he had was curiosity, drive, and a deep desire to understand why some people live fully while others drift through life without ever waking up to their own potential. This hunger to understand human behavior is what eventually turned him into one of the most respected high-performance coaches in the world. But his journey didn't start with coaching celebrities or writing best-selling books. It started with fear, trauma, and a life-changing accident that left him wondering if he would ever get another chance to live at all. Most people know Brendon today as the energetic mentor who teaches millions how to increase productivity, confidence, and purpose. They see the best-selling books, the global seminars, the massive online following. They hear him talk about drive, discipline, clarity, and courage, but very few know what pushed him into this world. In the first place, Brendon didn't become a high-performance coach because he was always confident or always successful. He became one because he once lived the opposite. Confused, lost, disconnected, and unsure of who he's supposed to be. That contrast, that internal conflict, created a spark that would eventually change his entire life. Long before he became a public figure, Brendon was a young man wrestling with the same questions most people avoid. Am I living the life I truly want? Am I giving love to the people who matter? Am I making any difference at all? These questions weren't philosophical to him. They were survival. They came from a place of real emotional pain. And what makes his story matter so much is that he turned that pain into purpose. He didn't run from his doubts. He studied them. He didn't hide from his weaknesses. He transformed them into strength. That's why millions listen to him today, because his message doesn't come from theory. It comes from experience, from moments when he had no answers and had to build his way out one decision at a time. Over the years, Brendon became known not just as a coach, but as a researcher of human behavior. He studied what makes people feel alive, what makes them perform at their highest level, and what holds them back from reaching their potential. That commitment is what led him to coach some of the world's most successful entrepreneurs, athletes, artists, and leaders. His work became a blueprint for anyone who wanted to upgrade their life, not by hustling harder, but by living smarter, clearer, and more intentionally. His teachings are built on patterns he observed in thousands of people, and the reason his story matters so deeply is because he didn't create a philosophy for the perfect person. He created a system for real people, people with doubts, people with fears, people who want to change but don't know how. But even with all the success, all the recognition, and all the impact he was making, Brendon was still human. Behind every achievement was pressure. Behind every accomplishment was sacrifice. And behind the public version of him was a person who sometimes struggled with the weight of his own expectations. That's the part of his story that often gets overlooked. The emotional cost of becoming the best. His journey matters because it shows that success alone doesn't guarantee happiness. Being productive doesn't guarantee peace. And even someone who teaches the world how to live at a high level can find himself losing balance in the process. Understanding who Brendon is and how deeply he cares about helping others makes the moment he realized his success was harming him even more powerful. It wasn't just a wake-up call. It was the beginning of a profound shift. A shift that would reshape not only his life but the way he continues teaching the world today. Before Brendon Burchard ever spoke on a stage, before he wrote best-selling books or coached some of the most successful people in the world, there was one moment that shattered everything he thought he knew about life. A moment so violent, so unexpected, that it divided his life into two parts: before the accident and after it. He was just 19 years old, riding in the passenger seat of a car, heading down a dark road late at night. There was nothing unusual about the drive, no warning signs, no sense that anything was about to go wrong. But in a matter of seconds, everything changed. The car lost control. The world spun. Metal screamed. Glass exploded around him. And before he could take another breath, the vehicle flipped off the road and crashed. People often hear this part of his story and imagine it like a movie scene, slow motion, dramatic, almost surreal. But for Brendon, it wasn't cinematic. It was raw, violent, terrifying. As the car rolled, he felt his life slipping away from him, like someone was pulling the thread of his existence faster than he could hold on. He felt time stretching and collapsing all at once. He saw flashes, moments, tiny fragments of life, and then suddenly everything went still. He crawled out of the wreckage covered in blood, shaking, barely able to understand what had just happened. And as he stood there, staring at the destroyed car, the cold night air burning his lungs, something inside him broke open. It wasn't panic. It wasn't anger. It was clarity, sharp, painful clarity. At 19 years old, Brendon Burchard realized something most people don't confront until it's too late. Life ends. And because life ends, we have to choose how we live it. In that moment, standing broken, terrified, and stunned, three questions rose inside him like a voice he couldn't ignore. They weren't poetic. They weren't philosophical. They were survival. Did I live? Did I love? Did I matter? These three questions weren't just random thoughts. They were a mirror held up to his soul. And the hardest part was that he didn't like his own answers. Did he live? Not fully. Did he love? Not deeply. Did he matter? He wasn't sure. The pain of those answers became the fire that shaped the rest of his life. That night didn't just scare him, it awakened him. It forced him to face the truth that most people avoid. We spend so much of our lives trying to fit in, trying to be accepted, trying not to fail, that we forget to live boldly. We forget to love openly. We forget to make choices that give our lives meaning. Everything that came after the accident, his career, his philosophy, his obsession with high performance stemmed from that single night. People think his message is about motivation or hustle. But it started with mortality. The accident made him obsessed with what he calls intentional living. He didn't want to drift anymore. He didn't want to wake up one day and realize he had lived on autopilot. Those three questions became the compass he used for every decision, every project, every new chapter of his life. And as he built success over the years, the world began to notice. He became known as one of the top high-performance coaches on the planet. He worked with entrepreneurs, athletes, leaders, people who wanted to push their limits and achieve more than they ever imagined. But here's the part most people miss. Success didn't erase those three questions. It amplified them. Because as his career grew, another problem began to rise. Quietly, slowly, almost invisibly. Success, at least the kind he was chasing, came with pressure. It came with demands. It came with expectations. And before long, he realized something deeply uncomfortable. External success doesn't fill internal emptiness. It can distract you. It can impress other people. But it doesn't create meaning. He had the money, the recognition, the influence. He had a schedule packed with projects, clients, and opportunities. He was achieving more than he ever thought possible, but the more he achieved, the more he noticed a hollow feeling forming beneath everything. A subtle disconnection, a sense that he was moving faster and faster, yet feeling less and less. And this is where many high achievers struggle. When you're driven, you don't slow down, you speed up. You say yes to everything. You push yourself harder. You try to outperform yesterday. And over time, you lose the very things that make success worth having. You lose balance. You lose peace. You lose presence. Brendon began to notice that success was becoming dangerous, not because it was wrong, but because it was consuming him. He was moving so fast that he wasn't feeling the journey anymore. He wasn't celebrating. He wasn't resting. He wasn't investing in deep relationships. He wasn't creating space for reflection. His life was full, but he was running on empty. He often describes this phase of his life as the moment he realized success can hurt you just as much as failure, just in a different way. Failure hits you hard and all at once. Success drains you slowly, quietly, without warning. It convinces you that you don't need help, that slowing down means falling behind, that rest is for the weak. And if you're not careful, you wake up one day and realize you've achieved everything you wanted, but lost yourself in the process. Brendon began to see that his constant drive for achievement was pulling him further away from the things that had once saved his life. Presence, love, meaning. He was helping millions of people improve their lives, yet forgetting to check in with his own. He was inspiring others to live intentionally, yet slipping into a life that was becoming overly structured, overly demanding, and dangerously unbalanced. This realization didn't come from burnout alone. It came from the same three questions, but it haunted him since he was 19. Every time he asked himself, "Did I live?" he felt the weight of how many moments he rushed through. Every time he asked, "Did I love?" he felt how often work pulled him away from the people he cared about. And every time he asked, "Did I matter?" he wondered if his impact was becoming transactional instead of heartfelt. Success was supposed to make him feel fulfilled. Instead, it was making him feel disconnected. And that's when he understood something crucial. External success means nothing if your internal world is collapsing. Achievements mean nothing if you can't slow down long enough to enjoy them. And recognition means nothing if you're sacrificing your well-being, your relationships, or your identity to maintain it. The accident at 19 taught him that life is short. But success later in life taught him that even a long life can feel empty if you're not living it with intention. The turning point wasn't a single moment. It was a pattern he began to see. He realized he was going so fast that he had stopped asking the very questions that once defined him. He had stopped living the way he promised himself he would live after the accident. This awareness didn't come with a breakdown or dramatic collapse. It came quietly, softly, like a whisper, reminding him of the night he almost died. A whisper telling him that he needed to return to what mattered. A whisper telling him that the greatest danger wasn't failure, it was success without meaning, work without purpose, and achievement without joy. And that whisper would soon become the force that reshaped everything. Brendon Burchard didn't transform his life through another achievement, another award, another milestone that looked impressive on paper. His real transformation started the moment he realized something he had been avoiding for years. Fulfillment does not come from doing more. It comes from living more. And living more has nothing to do with the size of your accomplishments. It has everything to do with the quality of your days, the quality of your relationships, and the quality of your inner world. For years, he believed that if he pushed hard enough, worked long enough, and succeeded big enough, he would finally feel the peace he had been seeking since the night of his accident. But peace never came. Instead, the more he achieved, the more he felt a strange emotional distance inside himself. The applause was loud, but his heart was quiet. The opportunities were endless, but his joy felt small. And eventually he understood why he was trying to fill an internal space with external rewards. That realization was the beginning of his inside-out shift. A shift in the way he thought, the way he worked, the way he lived. He started to see that fulfillment wasn't something waiting for him after success. It was something he had to cultivate within himself, moment by moment. He began asking different questions, softer but deeper. What makes me feel alive? Who brings out the best in me? What experiences make me grateful? What moments make me proud? Not because they look good, but because they feel true. And slowly he noticed a pattern. Fulfillment came, not from the grand moments, but from the simple ones. It came from unhurried conversations with people he cared about. It came from appreciating the present instead of racing through it. It came from choosing peace over pressure. It came from being fully engaged in the moment, not mentally sprinting toward the next task on his list. The shift wasn't dramatic or sudden. It was steady, patient, intentional, an invitation to stop measuring life by the size of his achievements and start measuring it by the depth of his presence. This shift also meant looking at his relationships with fresh eyes. He realized that success meant nothing if he didn't have meaningful connections to share it with. He began investing more time in people, not projects. He learned that depth mattered more than quantity, and that a single authentic relationship could bring more fulfillment than 1,000 admirers applauding from a distance. Gratitude became a daily practice, not a once-a-year reflection. An inner peace became a priority instead of an afterthought. But this transformation didn't happen without struggle. Brendon often says that people assume success is a smooth climb upward, but that couldn't be further from the truth. His journey was messy. It was filled with moments of doubt, exhaustion, confusion, and emotional collapse. There were times when he pushed himself so hard that he felt himself slipping into burnout, a place where even the things he loved felt heavy. He realized that if you never pause, if you never celebrate, if you never breathe, success becomes a trap. It stops being a blessing and starts becoming a burden. He also learned about the hidden danger of overhelping others. Brendon's mission has always been service. He wants to uplift people, guide them, and help them unlock their potential. But there came a point when he was giving so much of himself away that there was nothing left for him. He was pouring out more energy than he could replenish. And in the process, he forgot one of the most important truths. You can't save everyone at the cost of losing yourself. Helping people should elevate your life, not drain it. These struggles became some of his greatest teachers. They forced him to rebuild, not in the physical sense, but in the emotional, mental, and spiritual sense. He started living intentionally, choosing each day instead of letting days choose him. He set boundaries. He allowed himself time to rest. He celebrated small wins. He connected more with the people who mattered. He prioritized joy as much as productivity. And most importantly, he returned to the values he had discovered at 19: live, love, matter. Living intentionally meant slowing down enough to feel life again. It meant waking up with purpose instead of pressure. It meant creating space for creativity, stillness, and reflection. It meant remembering that a rich life is not built from constant motion. It's built from meaningful moments. So he structured his days around meaning instead of momentum. He focused not only on what he wanted to achieve, but on who he wanted to become. When he planned his goals, he asked himself, will this make me grow? Will this make me joyful? Will this help me serve with authenticity? He began prioritizing joy, not as a reward for success, but as a requirement for a meaningful life. He embraced simple routines that grounded him: journaling, gratitude, movement, meditation. These practices helped him return to himself, center his thoughts, and stay connected to what mattered most. And in doing so, he realized that the real purpose of life was never about chasing accomplishments. It was about becoming a person who lives with intention, compassion, and presence. Service also became a different kind of mission, not a frantic attempt to help everyone, but a heartfelt commitment to help meaningfully. He learned that impact isn't measured by how busy you are, but by how genuine your contribution feels. He became more selective with his energy, more deliberate with his efforts, and more grounded in his purpose. And ironically, when he stopped chasing success so aggressively and started focusing on meaning, success began flowing into his life more naturally. At some point, he understood the universal message hidden within his journey, a message that applies to everyone, no matter how successful or lost or determined they feel. True fulfillment doesn't come from achieving everything you want. It comes from appreciating everything you have. It comes from being present in your own life instead of racing through it. It comes from loving deeply, forgiving often, connecting authentically, and it comes from aligning your days with your purpose, not your pressure. Brendon realized that living fully is not about squeezing productivity out of every hour. It's about being awake to the beauty of your life. Loving deeply is not about quantity. It's about sincerity, kindness, and being emotionally available to the people who need you. And mattering is not about fame, recognition, or applause. It's about making small choices every day that reflect your values, your intentions, and your courage. The message he now shares is simple but powerful. Life is not something you chase. It's something you choose. And the greatest success is living in a way that feels true, peaceful, and meaningful. In the end, Brendon's journey reminds us of a truth most people only realize when it's too late. Success means nothing. If you lose yourself while chasing it, the world will push you to run faster, achieve more, stay busy, stay loud, but your life is shaped in the quiet moments, the honest moments, the moments when you stop and ask, am I truly living the way I want to live? If there's one lesson to walk away with, it's this. You don't need more achievements to feel fulfilled. You need more presence, more love, more meaning. You need to live in a way that makes your heart feel alive, not just your schedule feel full. Because success can give you everything, except the one thing you were really looking for yourself. If this story moved you or opened your eyes in any way, make sure to like this video. And don't forget to subscribe to Habits of Greatness for more powerful stories and life-changing insights.